All right, so we are recording now. And Heidi, thank you for the reminder to record, as we forgot to record the first session. So thank you. And you had a question, go ahead.
I did. So just to clarify, if a student has chosen, student's family or the district has chosen that a student will always be distance learning, on the hybrid page, I know we check one of the appropriate boxes. And if it was a district decision, we say why.
Yeah.
Then do we leave the rest of that hybrid section blank?
Yes. Then you would just leave the rest of that section blank and jump to the distance learning section. Yep.
Okay.
It's basically a bypass. You can kind of see it as a bypass to that section. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
So when we want to have the hybrid ready and available, you can still discuss the hybrid sections. And for example, if right now we're in just distance learning, you can prepare your families to say, our hybrid will look like this, and fill those pages out. And then you can do that as a part of an IP discussion, and then it's just taken care of. That's what our team recommends, so that you kind of check off the list for hybrid as well. You can respond to parents' wishes, but the scenario that you just said, Heidi, sounds like we as a district are going to propose hybrid. Yes, we as a district are going to propose distance learning only. That's what we're doing right now in middle school. But I think we still should fill out the hybrid section so that we're ready. And to be honest with you, the district is starting to think about how can we prepare for that and be thinking about opening our doors to students and families. My recommendation is to switch for all special education students, as an example, switch the whole model to hybrid rather than picking and choosing which kids we want to see come into the building. Because that's the same advice we heard from our legal team. They said, stick with your model and you can go between any one of the three choices, but do it for all your kids. Don't make individual decisions for kids. If you make individual decisions, you as a district might be subject to discrimination cases because you didn't consider all. Does that make sense?
Yep, that does. But if the parents have chosen to go with, I mean, they've said there's no way that our child's coming in.
Yep. That's the case where we would check the box that says parents want high distance learning for the whole school year. And then you can actually just avoid the hybrid section in that case.
Perfect.
Especially when they've got like a medical reason.
All right. Yeah. Because that's what I've got 4 kids right now that have that issue. And I know that Dave Mosley has a bunch, and I think Angie has a couple too. So, and I don't know about the rest, but I know for our 6, 7.
Don't force them to do the hybrid for sure. Okay. Yep, that makes sense.
Okay, perfect. And then I actually had a question that kind of popped into my head after the last one. And I think you kind of touched on it a little bit, but I have 2 students who have moved to St. John's or Stella Maris or whatever they're calling themselves now. And both of them have more behavior type goals, like, checking a planner or making sure that they're behaving appropriately in class. And I know that they currently are in session sometimes, and we are not in our model right now, not allowed to bring them in, which is fine. And I'm not allowed to go there, which is fine.
We are allowed to bring them in.
Oh, we are?
Did you know that?
No, I did not.
They're 5 days a week, and we can, like we have in the past, bus them in. No, not in
middle school. He just glitched again, or maybe I glitched. Did I?
Middle school.
Yeah, yeah. Am I glitchy? Because I don't know if I froze. I'm gonna leave and come back.
Freezing up.
Yeah. Oh.
I think it was me. My computer dropped. Can you hear me now, Heidi?
A little bit better, yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Now you're moving a little bit more.
So I'll try to restate that, especially for the recording, and that's why it's super great to record these, Julie. Make sure we get it right. For elementary, we can bring them in because we're bringing in our own students, and they can come in for 2 days a week. They can come in for what we're offering for a hybrid for our elementary.
Okay.
For secondary, we're not bringing kids in, and I misspoke a little bit there. Is we can only offer a virtual service, distance learning service. And I think at Stella Maris, they are doing 5 days a week in person. And that's why we're losing some students to enrollment right now to sites that are offering more in-person education, which is another story about loss of enrollment that I don't know if we need to get that on the recording. We did it in the last session. Maybe just I'll do a couple thoughts about enrollment loss. We're hearing across the district, like for example, gen ed and special ed, that we've lost nearly or over 234 kids. And what that equates to in monetary figures is nearly $2 million in loss of revenue. And if we as a district are still spending the same amount on teachers and we have high costs for, not necessarily high, but we have a spending threshold of keeping everybody employed, paras and teachers, but yet our revenues are going dramatically down, our settle up typically happens after the school year, fiscal year is over, and that's in August where we find out how we did. Last year's budget, we came out a little bit ahead in that we had revenues that exceeded our expenditures. If we're down $2 million of lost revenue, we're definitely going to be short at the end of the school year. And that's a problem. So any family that you hear about, thinking about a different school choice, I would encourage every school staff member to find a way to keep them in our district. Beg them, drag them in yourself, keep them enrolled, because we need student enrollment. So I just thought I'd put that on the recording for all service providers to be aware of what loss of enrollment does for our expenditures. And Heidi, do you have any follow-up to what I just spoke about? Any of the last comments about non-publics or anything? Your mic was off, Heidi.
Sorry, I just wanted to make sure that I know that we can't bring them in. What is the best? One question: am I writing a CLP for them as well? And second question: what is the best way to? I know that we can add them to our Canvas courses.
Yep.
But since they aren't, like in an academic class, it would be more of a strategies or a self-advocacy class. What is?
I've had individual calls from administrators.
I'll turn my camera off. Maybe that makes it. I don't know if that makes a difference.
You're breaking up a little bit, Heidi, but if I could just, you're asking about what are our service options. And the student is recommended to stay at their Stella Maris Academy, whatever it is. And it could be through a technology device like a computer, but our district's not offering the computers to the non-publics, or it could be a phone connection as well. And those service times just need to be individually negotiated with not only the parent, but also the school site about what time works best or what venue works best. It could be through Canvas or Seesaw as well, depending upon the grade level. That could be an option for them to maybe watch a pre-recorded video on a teaching skill or something like that they could engage in that and practice that skill. Many of the things that you referenced earlier were more around, for me, in my head, more organizational reminders about keeping their binders in order so that they don't fall behind on their schoolwork. Maybe that's a skill that could be pre-recorded on Canvas for the student to practice that skill while staying at Stella Maris.
That's great. Thank you. And then I'd write the CLP for that as well.
Yep.
Perfect. Thank you.
We're also seeing a lot of families saying, I don't want my IEP services right now. We can respond to that request, but that's again another example of loss of revenue. So the more families that we can keep service in place, the better.
All right. Thanks.
Julie, any questions that came up in our session an hour ago that maybe we should record right now in this one?
I'm going to throw that out there to Becky too. I know she's listening. Were there any other topics that came up that we haven't addressed now in this session that came up last?
There were a couple early childhood ones that, Becky, if you could remember any of those and maybe just do a couple seconds of recording on those topics. One was about the direct and PSP model.
Yeah, so we had a question regarding when a case manager in early childhood is acting as the communicator and the gatherer of resources or interventions off of a list typically generated by a specialist like an OTPT, that they are then taking that list and finding what would work for the family and embedding them. So we talked about having the related service be indirect, and the potentially the ECSE teacher or the speech language path, whoever's doing that coordinating, kind of grab and nab those minutes that the related service would typically be having with the family, because the communicator and the contact person is actually being is the PSP, the primary service provider, or in the case of this question, the ECSE teacher.
No.
I unmuted. Okay.
Okay. Yep. I think that came through, Becca. There's a little delay on our end, but I think I think it came through.
Thanks, Becky. Anything else, team, on this recording, or?
I think that's it for now. I can go ahead and stop recording.
You could tell people, if you haven't watched the videos are powerful information, not only put out by SPED Forms, but Shiloh had a nice recording too. It answers a lot of your questions. If you haven't watched them, start there. Thanks, everybody.